Let's bring in now Jamil Jaffer, former National Security Counsel for the Department of Justice. He's also the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Jamil, thanks so much for joining us on your Sunday.
Thanks for having me, Aisha.
I want to get to, obviously, the new ask from the Biden administration for billions of dollars more. We just heard from Greg Palcott in Kyiv sharing those just tragic stories. But look, we are heading for a spending showdown on Capitol Hill because we've got a lot of folks on the right who are angry for a couple of reasons when it comes to this war. And I want to pull up and show the American people how much the U.S. has contributed to this war so far. We're looking at nearly $77 billion from the U.S. alone, where some of our allies haven't even broken double digits yet. And the majority of Americans, Jamil, very, very concerned about our involvement in this war. We'll go to call for number 2 here, and it shows a CNN poll on Ukraine that 55% believe we should not authorize any additional funding, while 77% of Americans out there are extremely worried that the war is going to keep going on and on and on without some kind of resolution for a long time. So that is the main question that I keep hearing from critics of our spending and our engagement is, what is the exit strategy? And the exit strategy can't just be, we're with Ukraine until the very end, as long as it takes.
Well, this is part of the problem, Aisha, with the Biden administration's approach to this war, which has been slowly to eke in supplies over the course of a year and a half. We never have really given the Ukrainians what they need to win. If we really want to end this war rapidly, we can do so. If we put in the relevant supplies, put in the relevant equipment now, if we had done that 18 months ago, frankly, this war would have been over. Our partners and allies in the region, the Ukrainians, would have won. Now, we absolutely need to call on our allies in Europe to do more. This is, after all, their own backyard. But at the same time, this is a critical fight for the United States. The Biden administration hasn't done a good job explaining to the American people why. And it's just eked in too little, too slowly to really effectively win this war, Aisha.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can course correct, though, because I know that was 2 years ago, and that's the past. What do we do today? Because I'm wondering, did we get ourselves in a conundrum here when we basically promised that Ukraine would become a NATO member state when the war ended? Doesn't that just incentivize Putin over there in Russia to continue dragging this war along? Because that's the last thing they want, is for Ukraine to become a NATO member.
Well, that's absolutely true. I think this question of NATO membership needs to wait until after this war is over. We can debate that after the fact. Right now is not the time to make those commitments. What is important to be doing right now is ensuring that we give the Ukrainians everything they need to win, because the reality is, if the Russians succeed in this war, which they're failing right now, if they succeed, Poland and other NATO members are next. This war doesn't end at Ukraine. We have to win, but the Biden administration doesn't have a strategy for winning. It has a strategy for stretching this war out longer and longer, and that's the fundamental failure here. Aisha, I do think we can course correct, but that's going to require Republicans coming together and saying we need to win this war, not it's time to back off and get out. That's a mistake for our nation.
Yeah, we'll be watching the appropriations process here. Jamil, I want to also ask you about Iran. Of course, the U.S. just struck this deal to bring 5 hostages home. In exchange, Iran gets billions back in frozen assets. And like clockwork, we are now warning Western-backed shippers over there in the Hormuz Strait again to stay away from Iranian waters, territorial waters, because they might be seized. Republicans say this deal might incentivize Iran to take more hostages. Quickly, what do you say?
Well, look, I think that's exactly the problem. You can't continue to deal with nations like Russia and Iran to get our people back who are being held illegally and then give them things like an international arms deal or Victor Boot in the case of Russia, and billions of dollars to the Iranians, partly to do a covert nuclear deal because you can't get it through Congress. The Biden administration needs to take a serious look at what they're doing here and realize the Iranians are bad actors. They're not going to comply with their Iran nuclear deal. They're not going to protect shippers in the region, and giving them billions of dollars doesn't help us at all.
Jamil Jaffer, thanks for joining us on your Sunday. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aisha.